This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana makes car selling fast and easy from start to finish. Enter your license plate or VIN and get a real offer in seconds, down to the penny. If you accept, Carvana will come pick up your car from your driveway. Or you can drop it off at one of our car vending machines. Either way, you get paid instantly. It's fast, transparent, and 100% online. Car selling that saves your time. That's Carvana.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to the podcast. It is Tuesday, which means it's rankings day. We've got the college football playoff rankings. Oklahoma sitting at number 11. We've got our SEC power rankings going to go 16 to number 1 within the conference. Lots to talk about, lots to break down here to talk about what is on the line for Oklahoma in Tuscaloosa on Saturday afternoon with the Sooners going to play the Crimson Tide. Do they have to win out? Do they have to win out to get into the playoff? We're going to talk about that in the second segment of this podcast, but I want to start with our SEC power rankings going into week 12 of the season, where I got some programs kind of holding steady from a week ago. You've got a couple that are making statements, and I think there's one fan base. There's at least one fan base that probably wants the season just to be over, and can we start talking about basketball? But by the way, Oklahoma with another win in basketball at 2-1 on the season. Don't have time to get into that right now, other than Sooners, after taking it on the chin in Spokane, we talked about that in the previous podcast episode, back to the winning cycle. That's good. 2-1 for the Sooners. More on that later on. We are heading to the midway point of November. I say that's enough for us to describe it as being deep into November. So this is that final stretch of the season. This is where separation happens. This is where we see the contenders begin to prove their staying power. We get to see what we call pretenders in the sport start to fade away. And then we also get to see a team that maybe we wrote off in September find a little bit of a spark. I think Texas maybe qualifies for that, but we'll get through here. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk through the conference. We're going to start with 16 and go through 1. I used to alternate them, but I'm all about drama, right? Let me set it up for you before we get you to our number 1. And I want to just give you a few thoughts on each one, what the weekend told us last week, and maybe not just all about their record, but their identity, because I love that word as we move into the final few weeks of the season. So we're going to start all the way down at number 16, and we are looking at you, Arkansas Razorbacks, competitive, but still losing. I mean, it is. They round out the list here. The effort is there. I've said this. The effort is there with Arkansas. The grit is there even. But they still can't close games. And at some point, you've got to finish. And until we see that happen, the Hogs stay at number 16. I've got South Carolina. They were off. And I don't usually like to drop a team when they're off, but so much happened in front of them. And this is a bad team anyway, but I'll explain to you just a second why I dropped them a notch from 14 last week to 15 this week. They didn't do anything wrong. You've got a team in Florida that's kind of fighting with them, falling apart. And that gave Kentucky momentum. And so sometimes in this conference, survival by default counts for something. And you've got a shot here if you're Shane Beamer to start working your way back to respectability here over the final 3 weeks of the season. So I got Florida dropping from 13 to 14 after just getting obliterated by Kentucky. And when you're seeing Kentucky on the move, who was a long time, the Wildcats were my basement team in the conference, and they're moving up. You got Florida, South Carolina, and Arkansas now behind Kentucky, and it was ugly for the Gators. They got pushed around, they got outcoached, and they looked absolutely unprepared for Mark Stoops and the Wildcats, and that's saying something because this is Mark Stoops and the Wildcats. Suddenly, Florida has no rhythm offensively. The defense looked very much confused, and I don't think the effort level was good enough, if we're just being honest. Not just a bad week, but really a red flag for the program's trajectory. If you're a Florida fan, this is it. You got to be wondering, where's the leadership? Where's the urgency? Because this is a bottom-tier team right now, and they are sinking towards number 16. And the only good news that they have is that Arkansas seems to be just a little bit worse off. Auburn, number 13, they drop a notch this week after losing 45-38 to Vanderbilt. The collapse continues. This defense looks exhausted. They look like they're just tired of carrying the team. Offense still can't sustain momentum. The mental mistakes are piling up. And I know Vanderbilt's better. We'll talk about the Commodores here in a little bit. But when you're giving up 45 to Vanderbilt, I don't think it's a rough stretch anymore. It's a full-on identity crisis because Auburn, before the Hugh Freeze firing, at least they were getting elite play from their defense. And we could probably drop the Tigers more than the one spot to 13. And honestly, it could get worse. It could get worse. We may end up, there's still 3 weeks of football left. Number 12, I got Mississippi State. Again, a team that drops. They lost to Georgia 41-21. It feels like maybe a slow fade starting to happen here for Jeff Levy. This is a team that's going to flash early. They show a little bit of fight, and then they fade out of games when their opponents make adjustments. And that's what happened with Georgia, except for the Bulldogs came out swinging. And this is, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They're just running out of ways to stay competitive. There's grit, right? But there's not enough firepower to hang with these upper level teams in the SEC. I got LSU dropping 2 spots to number 11 after losing 20-9 to Alabama in a game which, again, I said on our Sunday podcast that was recorded on Monday because of my travel schedule. The Tide, they just didn't look the part. They won, by multiple scores, but they just looked bored in this game. But you got another disappointing showing for LSU where you thought maybe they might have a chance to show some life. And to be honest, the defense is doing its part, but you've got a broken offense now. You got a quarterback play that's been inconsistent, and you got a team that can't sustain drives against upper-level defenses. And I think, again, we throw around the identity word so much on this podcast. What is LSU's identity now? Because we've seen this program produce teams that can win ugly games, and that was what the Alabama game was. But they didn't have a shot. They look like a team at this moment who doesn't know how to win, and that's typically a problem in November. And for whatever reason, I am scared. I am scared of the Tigers coming to Norman to close out the season. Moving into the top 10, I've got Missouri holding steady. I got them holding steady. They lost, and it wasn't good. They lost 38-17 to Texas A&M. Excuse me. But the Tigers, they're kind of in a weird spot. I'm trying to say, how do you, when you look at the the damage done to their quarterbacks. This is a team that's not bad, but where they are right now, personnel-wise, they're just not ready to challenge. So effort wasn't a problem against Texas A&M. They played hard. I think 38-17, borderline where you can say they kept it respectable, but they never once threatened the Aggies. And that's okay because the Aggies are undefeated. But Missouri's MO this year has been good enough to compete, not good enough to finish when they're playing the better teams in this conference. I'm not going to punish them for losing to the best team in the conference. But at some point, this program has to find a way to close out against the big boys if they want to be taken seriously. Now, here's my big move. Now, remember, these are power rankings. They're not season rankings. They're not conference rankings. Based on what's happening right now with these programs, I've got Kentucky all the way up to number 9 this week. And I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but remember, we're talking power rankings. How are you looking from week to week? And the way Kentucky has played the last 2 weeks, the last 2 games, I don't know that I would be super confident in the teams below them, the 7 below them, to say, yeah, that'd be Kentucky. And that's why they're my biggest riser this week. They may be the biggest riser I've had all season, jumping 6 spots from 15 to 9. Because what they did to Florida on Saturday, they made a statement. They dominated from start to finish. Physical defense, creative play calling, and an offense that finally looked balanced and confident. And before you jump out there and say, no, that's Florida. You know, the Wildcats, the Wildcats played a team that doesn't have a coach, blah, blah, blah. Before you start your excuse train on the level of competition, let me just remind you, Florida beat Texas. And then they got smashed by Kentucky. So this is the team that Mark Stoops has been trying to build all season. It's probably too little too late. But if this version shows up again next week, you have to firmly entrench the Wildcats in the middle tier of this conference. And it wasn't, again, I know you're screaming and so many people are screaming. The Missouri Tigers are screaming. The Auburn, Tigers are screaming. I guess all the Tigers are screaming. Missouri, Auburn, LSU, they're all yelling. But here's the thing. This, in my opinion, this performance wasn't about Florida being bad. It was about Kentucky rediscovering who it is. So I've got the Wildcats into the top 10 at number 9. Tennessee, keeping them at number 8. They were idle. They were off. Nothing good, nothing bad. They stay put. And here's the reason why. They've got the talent to be a higher. They do. They can still make some noise through the final 3 weeks of the season. They've got the talent to be higher. But the offense has to find that spark. They've got to get lit up again. They had that early season explosiveness, and it's kind of faded. Some of that is the level of competition, particularly when you're talking about Oklahoma's defense. But look what they did. Look how they went toe-to-toe with Georgia. Look how they went toe-to-toe with Alabama. And now they're relying more on this grinded-out type possessions, and it doesn't work. They have to rediscover the rhythm down the stretch. And if they do, I think they'll climb. But I think holding them at number 8, it just kind of feels right. Vanderbilt, number 7. Yep, the Commodores still hanging around. 3 weeks left in the season, and we still got them in here near the top 5. But they are in the top half of the league at least. So they hold steady at number 7. And I think this is a team, they got surprised by Auburn, but they also came back and beat Auburn, 45-38. They're a team that plays with confidence. They have an offense that is humming. The quarterback play has stabilized. It's been good for 2 years now. And they've got playmakers on the perimeter. I think more than anything, this is a team that's playing free. You can see it in their body language. This is a team that belongs in every game that it plays. And it's been a long time. I don't know ever that we've been able to say that about the Commodores. Speaking of teams that were idle, Oklahoma holds steady at number 6 in my rankings this week. Oklahoma, they stay right where they are. And I think that's exactly where they should be. This is the second year in this conference. And I think it has been a fascinating case study in adjustment. They've proven that they belong here physically, but now you've got that real test coming up. We talked about it in the last podcast episode. You got the trip to Tuscaloosa. This game is going to tell us everything about where this program really is under Brent Venables. By the way, hang around for the next segment of the podcast. Are they ready to play with Alabama-level toughness? Are they still a year away? Are they still a couple missing pieces away? We're going to find out pretty quick, but right now we got them at number 6. Ole Miss stays at number 5. Honestly, I should have just dropped them for beating Citadel on week 11, right? Or week 12, whatever week it is. That's week 11 going into week 12. That 49-0 over Citadel. Look, no surprise. The Rebels did exactly what they were supposed to do. You know, you don't usually get a ton of credit for blasting an FCS team, especially this late in the season. But if you're Lane Kiffin and you can use games like this to focus on execution and confidence, and that's what his group did. The defense pitches a shutout. The offense hit on big plays. Most importantly, they stayed healthy. And that's really what matters as you're going into this stretch run. Texas, another idle team, they hold fast at number 4. And again, I will defend this. I am not a Longhorn defender, so to speak. I mean, I can't stand Texas, but I think they're the 4th best team in the conference right now. And my argument hasn't changed on them. Because you're going to say, well, they almost lost to Kentucky. They almost lost. They almost lost, but they didn't. And we've rehashed that over and over and over again until they actually do lose, which I think there are chances coming. You got Georgia. You still have Texas A&M on that schedule. There are opportunities to drop Texas. If they lose those games, I will be happy to drop them. But right now, it's the right call. There's no reason to move them, especially on a bye week, especially when teams around them either handled their business or didn't make enough of a statement to jump over them. But keep in mind, I mean, this is the truth. The Longhorns are about to enter that stretch of the season where we're going to find out if they are among the elite in this conference. There is talent there. The physicality has gotten better. Now we're going to see where their mental toughness is. And that starts this Saturday. Alabama, got them at number 3, rolling LSU 20-9. No style points here. No style points at all for the Tide. Like I said, they just looked bored in this game. But they didn't really need style points. They win this game with grit. Alabama controls its own destiny. And so you want to have an ugly, grinded out kind of game against a coachless team? Okay. That's going to make Nick Saban happy. That's going to make some of these older SEC-style coaches happy. But I think if you're a part of the Roll Tide Nation, you're just happy to see another win. This defense looks elite again. You saw LSU try a bunch of everything. You saw them try tempo. You try to shorten the routes, and then they go take vertical shots. Nothing consistently worked for LSU. And you got a Crimson Tide defense that just swallowed up LSU's offense. There is some offensive inconsistency here with Alabama. It's not the smooth, explosive Alabama that we've seen in past years. But, man, look, this is a team that can find a way to win while they're figuring things out. That makes them dangerous. So I'm keeping them at number 3, keeping them steady, keeping them battle-tested. And they're clearly a threat. And I know, there's some There's arguments against me here, and for good reason, but there's also arguments in favor of for good reason. I got Georgia at number 2. They rolled up Mississippi State 41-21. And they looked like Georgia again, right? This looked like one of those reset performances. 4 full quarters of consistent execution. The offense looked smoother. There was rhythm in the passing game. There was patience in the running game. And the defense, when it locks in, it still suffocates. So you got a little bit of flash, but you got a lot of efficiency here from the Bulldogs. They closed the door late. They forced a couple of takeaways. They showed championship DNA, that type of DNA that's carried them the last few seasons. And I think Georgia fans, they have to like what they saw. And maybe they're just peaking at the right time, at the right moment. And now here we go. No surprise, no shock to anyone. Texas A&M stays in the top spot after beating Missouri 38-17. No reason to move the Aggies down. Obviously, you can't move them up. They are, it's crazy to say this, but they are the class of the SEC. And it's not just that they're winning this late in the season, it's how they're winning their games, right? There's no emotional dip after the previous wins. There's no hangover. There's no complacency. This is just a mature, methodical team that takes care of business. And they controlled the game against Missouri from start to finish. The Tigers tried to hang around, and A&M's balance on offense and the way they play physical defense just wore them down. And guess what? That's what championship teams do. They don't play to the opponent's level. They impose their own will, how they want to, when they want to. And the rest of the conference is running out of time. There's no one left in the SEC that can out-tough them for 60 minutes as of right now with 3 weeks of the season left. And you've got to drop the Aggies twice in 3 weeks if you don't want them in the conference championship. So I think what I'm saying is book your tickets, Aggie Land. Book your tickets to Atlanta because I don't see how you're not. I don't see how you're not getting there. So just a quick recap. We got Kentucky, the biggest move forward this week, 6 points from floundering to flourishing from Mark Stoops. This is the team that they wanted to see in Lexington. LSU drops 2 points, lacking direction. Florida down 1 spot, just absolutely looked lifeless, could be heading to the cellar based on what Arkansas decides to do to close out the season. So there you have it. Week 12, SEC Power Rankings. Aggies continue to look like the most complete team in this conference. Georgia, Alabama, they're not very far behind. In the middle, Kentucky's making noise. Vanderbilt quietly just keeps doing what they do. And as we head into the final stretch of this season, this is where the conference proves what it's built on. This is where the teams show their depth, they show their toughness, they show their resilience. And look, from 1 to 16, I think every team has something to prove, whether they're chasing the title or whether they're just playing for pride. So buckle up for a good Saturday coming up as we see exactly what happens and how this landscape may shift going into week 13.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kan du norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Let's focus our attention now on Oklahoma, more specifically on the Sooners, and sticking with the rankings, the college football playoff rankings that just came out. And when you, at first glance, you see Oklahoma's movement, it doesn't look like much. The Sooners slide up 1 spot from number 12 to number 11. So no dramatic leap. No fireworks, just 1 tiny step forward after being idle last weekend. But here's the thing. Sometimes those quiet moments say the most. Because this isn't about what Oklahoma didn't do last week. It's about what they still can do this week in Tuscaloosa. The truth is, the Sooners are standing right on the threshold of opportunity. They're not waiting for help from chaos. They're not out of the race, and they're still very much in control of their destiny. And that control, that final chance to define who they are, it funnels all that effort, all that intensity, all that possibility to one place, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So let's set this up, okay? Oklahoma 7-2 overall, 3-2 in the conference. Not a flashy record by playoff standards, not yet, but it's solid. And more importantly, it's credible. The Sooners' resume shows that they've played real teams in real environments that are not friendly to visitors, and they held their own against top competition. They've got 2 losses, both to ranked teams. You lost to Ole Miss most recently, who's right now sits at number 7, and you lost to Texas last month early, who's at around 10 right now. So those aren't bad losses. It's not like you lost to Florida. And that matters when the committee evaluates the full body of work. And they've got one of the better non-conference records and one non-conference strengths, I guess, and one of the best non-conference wins in the entire country with that 24-13 win over Michigan back in September. That's a win, a non-conference win, that's still aging very well. So the foundation's there. What's the problem? Well, foundations don't get you playoff invitations. Finishing the season, that's what gets you the invitations. And I think that's what this weekend at Alabama is all about. What we saw as Sooner Nation on Tuesday night in that set of rankings, a lot of us thought, maybe some thought, I don't know. What I saw on Twitter, X, what I saw on our Facebook page, why don't we move more, right? As of Sooner Nation, why don't we move more? Why are we still on the outside looking in? And there's really a simple answer to this. Everyone else did their job. Georgia won, Alabama won, Texas A&M won, Ole Miss won, and Oklahoma didn't play. But still, the committee held them steady. And here's why that does not hurt them. The committee isn't punishing Oklahoma. They're inviting them. They're saying, prove it. You're right there. Just give us one more reason. And I think that's what this number 11 ranking really means. It's permission. Permission to go earn your way in. Think about it this way. The Sooners aren't being overlooked. They're being challenged. And that's exactly what you want as a competitor. Let's talk about math here, okay? Oklahoma sits at number 11 in a 12-team playoff format. If the postseason started today, the Sooners would technically be the first team out. Okay, and I know that doesn't make sense math-wise. You're number 11 in a 12-team format. But, man, this is a frustrating spot to live in because you're so close, but you're just not quite over the line. Here's what I mean. Follow me here. Don't get frustrated, all right? Because I know that 12 is greater than 11, and Oklahoma is at 11, not 13. But remember how the format works. The 5 highest-ranked conference champions, they automatically qualify. So you got 5 there automatically qualifying. The other 7 spots are going to be at-large bids. So what that means is that Oklahoma's position depends not only on their wins, but also what the teams around them do and what their wins mean. But there's good news, okay? There is good news here. The path is crystal clear. Go beat Alabama. Go beat Alabama on Saturday. That is a resume-defining win. It's the type of victory that jumps you 2, maybe even 3 spots because suddenly you own one of the best wins in college football for this season. You own a road win over a top 4 opponent. The Sooners would move to 8-2 with a win over Alabama, and you're looking at home games against Missouri and LSU, both winnable to close out the season. You win that, you go through that final gauntlet, you're at 10-2 with statement wins over both Tennessee and Alabama, plus a Michigan victory outside of the conference. That right there, my friends, that Sooner Nation, that's a playoff resume. So Oklahoma doesn't need help. They don't need chaos. Win on Saturday and you're in. But what if you lose, right? Then the story changes a little bit. You're sitting at 7-3. You still got those 2 home games that you've got to finish. And if you do that, you're 9-3. But you're dependent on other teams losing. Now you need Notre Dame to stumble. You might need Texas to stumble. You might need Oregon to stumble. And that opens up a lane for you. And that is the dangerous place. You don't want to live there late in November. So yeah, I think Alabama on Saturday, that is the turning point. Let's talk about for just a second why this game means more than just a win or a loss here in these standings. Because Alabama's sitting at number 4. They are the blue blood of this conference, along with Georgia. They are the measuring stick. And when you beat the Tide, especially in Tuscaloosa, it sends a message that goes well beyond Saturday. It tells the committee that you can beat anyone, anywhere. It changes the perception. Remember how much we talked about perception in previous episodes? Because right now, Oklahoma is seen as a really good team that despite what happened in Knoxville, they just really haven't had that breakthrough SEC moment yet. They've played close. They've battled hard, but they haven't landed the knockout punch. Beating Alabama, that's the knockout punch. Because losing at home to Ole Miss, it kind of evens out winning in Knoxville. But then you go to Tuscaloosa and you win. You don't just move up a spot or two. You leap. You change the conversation. Suddenly you're not the team that might sneak in. You're the team that belongs. And that's the difference between hoping for chaos and being the one who creates chaos. So let's look for a minute. Based on these rankings that are out right now, what helped Oklahoma? Well, Alabama staying in the top 4, that clearly helps. That keeps this as an elite matchup on Saturday. It maximizes the value of a win in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma's 2 losses, they're quality losses. I got air quotes up because I hate losses, just like you do. But they're quality losses. They are top 10 teams that you lost to. One of them an uber competitive game. The other one, it's your quarterback's first game back from hand surgery. So at 10-2, those losses don't hurt you. And then you've got a strong non-conference schedule. All right, you got that Michigan win, and that gives them national credibility. But there are things here that hurts Oklahoma. Notre Dame, Texas, still ahead of them. Texas especially because you've got the head-to-head loss. But again, the Longhorns got Georgia, and they've got A&M still. Another thing that hurts you if you're Oklahoma is Missouri dropping out of the rankings after losing to Texas A&M on Saturday. That weakens Oklahoma's remaining schedule a little bit and puts more emphasis on this Alabama matchup. I think most of all, perception as well. I mean, when you're talking about what hurts Oklahoma, again, they've had good wins, but not that signature win. Because, again, losing at home to Ole Miss, winning at Knoxville, that's a wash. But Saturday can fix all that. The committee is not looking for statement teams in November. They're looking for programs that separate themselves down the stretch. And Oklahoma has a chance to be that team. This game on Saturday, it's not about numbers, it's not about resumes, it's about narrative. If Oklahoma walks into Tuscaloosa and plays tight, they play not to lose, they'll walk out of that stadium with regret. But if they go in like they did in Knoxville earlier this year, 2 weeks ago, with swagger, with aggression and belief, they could absolutely win this football game. Because here's the truth. Alabama's good, but they're not invincible. That offense has sputtered at times. The defense can be tested in space. Oklahoma's got the athletes, they've got a quarterback, and they've got the defensive discipline to make it interesting deep into the fourth quarter. And there you have the opportunity to do whatever you need to do. This is the opportunity that every team in the month of November dreams about. A chance to define your season, not just survive it, but define yourself there. And again, if Oklahoma does this, if they go and they win, they don't just climb into the playoff conversation. They take control of it. So where does this leave us heading into Saturday afternoon? Oklahoma's path is narrow, okay? It's narrow, but it's clear. Win, and you're essentially there. You're in. Lose, and you're on the outside looking in, hoping for other dominoes ahead of you to fall. The committee's not saying no to Oklahoma. They're saying show us to Oklahoma. And this weekend is that show. It's the chance to rewrite the narrative from good season to great season, from respectable second-year team in the SEC to instant contender, from close calls to like this is the signature win. This game in Tuscaloosa, it's not about proving doubters wrong. It's about proving that they are right. The Sooners, that is. And when you look at this roster, you look at the coaching staff, you look at the way this team has evolved since September, I believe they've got everything they need in order to do just that. And now it's all about execution. So there it is, Sooner Nation, right there. There it is. This Saturday afternoon, it's not just another game. It is the game. It's the one that could define Oklahoma's season and really kind of set the tone for years to come. Because sometimes in the world of college football, Saturday afternoon, it decides everything. So we got more to come this week. We'll completely break down Oklahoma, Alabama on Thursday's podcast, give you our score predictions, and then obviously we'll be back after the game Sunday and tell you our thoughts on it. Hopefully we're talking about a win. I'll give you my prediction on Thursday. Enjoy your middle of the week, guys. You're there. You are there. You're halfway through. Make the most of it.